Well, it's been a while. Now, some people have ringworm, some people have a ring light, and clearly I have neither. I have neither of them. You can tell I don't have ring light by the way this looks right now. The quality is not great, but you can tell I don't have ringworm by the way I am. I wouldn't be this happy if I had ringworm, I promise you. And I haven't done anything in a while, and it's time. It's really time. I almost didn't do it. I had some encouragement. I had some excitement. I have some glare behind me, and it is what it is. But I wanted to sort of try something a little bit different tonight. I think it's time I get a little more serious on an episode, and I just want to see what happens. Again, this is all about testing the algorithm, testing what works, testing what doesn't, seeing what really resonates with the people. That's what I want to do. I want to see what resonates with the people. It's time that I do that. And I want to say this, okay? This is for starters. Remember, this is for starters. It's about finding my voice. Finding my voice. My voice was once lost, but it's still finding itself. And I just, when I started this, my goal was I wanted to keep it real lighthearted, wanted to have a laugh, wanted to have a chuckle. And I also realized too that I think if I really want to grow a podcast, that it can't be all meaningless talk. It can't all be meaningless. And so I'm going to be a little more serious this time, and that's hard for me sometimes. And I think that I don't always like being serious because when I'm serious, it's just different. It's just different. I think I use humor as a deflector. I use humor to hide behind. I use humor to hide in. And it doesn't mean that it's fake, okay? It doesn't mean that it's fake. It just means that it's something that I do. And I just want a different approach. So this can also be me. That can be me. And somehow, guys, we're all going to meet back where we started, in the middle. And hopefully with a podcast, not without. And so that's my vulnerability. That's me being transparent. I'm just trying to figure out what works, okay? Just remember, the Red Sea split into two, and they walked down the middle. There was water on the left, water on the right, but remember, they made it across. Not the Egyptians, but the Israelites, they made it across. And so I need you to remember that, okay? Excuse me. And so I'm going to figure out what to talk about. Now, I told myself I was never going to make a podcast. Okay, I love Jesus. That's something you're going to find out about me. I really love him. But I didn't want to make if I'm just being honest right now, I did not want to make a podcast that felt like you're going to church on Sunday morning, okay? I wasn't going to do that. We have a lot of podcasts like that. I don't think that's what I needed. But what really actually inspired me was I love to listen to podcasts in the shower. I like to listen to people talk. I like to listen to news stories uncovered. I like investigative journalism, but I knew I was never going to do that either. But I wanted something great to listen to in the shower. And so there's this thing in life where sometimes you see something you appreciate, something you want that exists, but maybe enough of it doesn't exist. And so that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing it this way right now. And my mom and my friends have told me I can't, so I'll do it. Nobody's stopping me. And I don't want a churchy podcast. That's not what I want. I love Jesus. He's got to really be the center of what I do. I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a full-time job. I love design. I love life. I like laughter. I like people. And so really, I'm trying to just find a way to gather all that together into one pot. It's how you make soup. You take a lot of ingredients and you put it in a pot together with homemade bone broth, okay? If you want good freaking soup, find a fiance that makes homemade bone broth. Otherwise, your soup's going to be subpar. If you haven't had homemade bone broth, then you would never know. Sidetrack, but here we go. That's all part of the story. There's analogies, okay? Jesus gave a lot of analogies, and so if I can give an analogy, that's a win for me at the end of the day because he did it. And so I'm trying to just put all these things into one. I want to talk about hip hop, okay? And how it sucks sometimes and what I miss. And I want to make you maybe a little uncomfortable. And I want to talk about movies and why I think a lot of them are trash now. And we got to find space to talk about all this and business, why I started it, why I think you should stop choosing to live in misery because you think everyone around you is doing that, and that's right. Now you shouldn't. That God has something good for you. And I think that we need more people talking about that. And again, I don't know, maybe it's something I don't need to do. Maybe it's not my contribution to make, but I will let you live your life how you think you need to. And so the question we need to answer is, how do we bring value to people? That's what people really are wanting. People are wanting story. People are wanting value. And so how do I do that? And I just think sometimes the meaningless conversations I was having, some of them were fun. Most of them they're not bringing those things. And so I think it's not either or. I think it's a both. You find a way to marry both. And I think that this is going to be new for me to get used to. It's not fun being serious, okay? I don't enjoy it. And so this is stretching for me, and maybe it'll come across that way. I don't know. But I want to talk about the thing that made me fall in love with Jesus. But I'm not just talking about the thing that made me fall in love with Jesus. Of course it was him, but I'm talking about why and how it changed my life. And the biggest thing that I really don't understand right now is, if you don't know Jesus, I don't know how you live your life. I don't know how you're comfortable with life. I don't know what I really don't understand is how you go through something traumatic and hard and you don't give your life to Jesus. And I don't understand how you do it alone. I think you probably turn to drugs. I think you probably turn to alcohol. And I can say that because that's what I would do to hide it, to cover it up. And I think that's what people are doing though. I don't know how you do it. How do you have hope? Like, what are you hoping for? See, I always actually believed in Jesus, and I can say that because I really did. I'm not saying I was always surrendered to him, but I always believed in him. I've never doubted the existence of Jesus. I'm telling this story because I know this story, and I think that this story is powerful because the story pulled me out of a depressive, anxious mess. It pulled me out of a mess, and really it was hope. But I need to tell this. And I want to make it part of my podcast because it's been one of the most transformative things in my life. And so I really think about this. It was back in 2016 when I was going to college. I had my real estate license. I worked a part-time job. The world was my oyster, as some people would say. My family never said that. They didn't like oysters. The world was my roast. The world was my roast. And I was pursuing a lot of different things because I really wanted to hit a lick. I still do, but the way I approach it is much different now. And I wanted to make a lot of money for me. I want to make a lot of money for me, and I still probably will, but it won't be just for me at this point. And so I was doing a lot of different things, and I'll never forget, I was doing a lot of right things. I wasn't always living for Jesus. Again, I believed. I wasn't surrendered. I'd encountered God the first time ever my freshman year of high school. I did some stupid things in my life, and I learned a lot from it. I didn't need discipline physically as a child because I understood when I did something wrong. One look and me thinking I was in trouble was worse than ever being in trouble, okay? That's true. Telling the truth right now. Anyways, I had a business deal. We'll say I had a business deal go sideways. Again, I was in real estate. My clients got lied to. I tried doing everything right. And things got hard. Things got bad. Things got tough. And I got scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I want to just say this right now. Everything is a spiritual thing. Like, I know some people say, let's not spiritualize everything, and I say that sometimes because I think some people get weird about things that we don't need to get weird about, but everything really is a spiritual thing if you think about it. we're kind of, I don't even want to say we're multi-dimensional beings, because there's a spirit world around us. And you got to understand that right here, right now. You got to understand that there is a fight for your life. There's a bigger battle that's going on around us. And this is what happened. I was representing a buyer in a real estate deal, and they were going to buy a house. And we had terms that we agreed to. And let's just say the sellers did not do that, and there was damage being caused to the house. Okay, I've not shared this story this public before, but damage was being caused to the house, and I was terrified. I thought I did all the right things. I thought I took care of my clients the right way, but things went wrong. Things went sideways, and it was scary for me. And because of that, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I didn't know what was going to happen. And the enemy loves to twist scenarios in your mind. Loves to twist. It's like somebody's whispering to you and you choose to listen to it. Was I going to get sued? Was I going to go to jail? Both those things are very irrational. I didn't do anything wrong. I was representing my clients very well, very honorably, very honestly. But I was terrified. I was I felt like a scared kid. I was 23, 22, something like that. Again, I was doing real estate in college. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I tried doing everything I could to fix it, to help them, because I couldn't understand why this was happening. And I just remember I was coping with this issue with all the wrong things. This is a part I need you to hear, because I think some people feel this sometimes. When all this was happening, this is the thing I really want to hit on. What happened in the business thing, it matters, and I'll share it with you if you ask, but I want you to understand what I felt in that moment, because I think there's people that feel this sometimes. I felt depressed. I wanted to die. I hated my life. I was never going to end things, but I wanted to die. I wanted my life to end, actually, because I was so miserable. I felt numb inside. I felt cold. Like everything just felt like I was empty. I felt like I was going psychotic. I would watch like the same 3 movies every single night, and I just couldn't. I'd like watch Gone Girl, and I understand these aren't the best movies, but I watched it. I would like watch Gone Girl or The Purge, I think, or I would watch Mrs. Doubtfire, The Dark Knight. Maybe I didn't watch The Purge during this season. That was a little heavy. And I don't love movies like that anymore, but I would just watch. I couldn't watch anything other than those 3 movies, and I didn't want to leave my bed, and I was stuck to my room, and I hated everything. I loved my family, and why was this happening to me? And it was very circumstantial. It was very, very, very circumstantial, and again, I couldn't understand why everything was happening that it was. And so I was coping with my problems with medication. It wasn't, good. I just, night after night after night, I was taking it to medicate myself and numb myself. And I remember I started hearing God speak to me. And every single night, I would hear God say, "Ryan, why are you putting your trust in this thing of the world and not in me?" And he was very much talking about the medication. And he would say it night after night after night. "Ryan, why are you putting all your trust in this thing of the world and not in me?" I just remember talking with God, and I was like, "Lord, I don't know how I can do this without doing this. I just can't." I couldn't imagine life going on anymore. I just couldn't imagine life going on anymore and not being numb at night, because I would stay up real late. I would sleep in miserably late. I was trying to sleep my life away. It was absolutely crazy. I'm in the very last semester of college, and here I was thinking I was about to go conquer the world, go buy a hotel in Florida. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to get a hotel in Florida. I wanted to go do real estate in Florida. I still would do it. I have an idea. I have multiple ideas, and I will do it someday. Maybe not in Florida. We'll see when we get there. But that just played in my mind night after night. And I remember a friend was working at a company here in Fort Wayne, and he got me an interview there. He introduced me to the HR person, got me an interview, and I'll never forget, because I always wanted to get a job there, and I could never get an interview because my GPA was trash. And I remember like saying, "God, all right, we're going to stop," because I just knew if I got tested or anything like that, I had to be straight. And so I remember that very well took place. That took place, and I quit right then and there. And it was crazy because God was speaking to me. And see, I never questioned if it was God. I knew it was God. I knew it was God. And it was just this still small voice in my head. I knew it was God though. I shouldn't even say it was a still small voice in my head because it was very loud and very prominent. But God said it to me and I was miserable. And for the first time I started saying I need to find hope. And so I opened up my Bible and I started reading my Bible. I was depressed, miserable. And so I'm like, what's going to give me hope? I need to know that everything's going to be okay. And you got to understand in this season of my life as well, I realized that God was the only thing bigger than the world. He was the only thing bigger than my situation. He was the only one that could turn my situation around. And so with that being said, I was like, I got to trust God in this. And so I started to. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't, but I really started committing to that. And I'll never forget when I started reading, this is when the Bible really came alive to me. And it was Romans 8:28. I'm going to read it here. We're going to have a story time. I'm going to read it here. This is not the NIV like I normally read. Don't judge me. But this is, I think, the ESV. And this says Romans 8:28. Follow along. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good of those who are called according to his purpose. Very close to the NIV. Same thing. Anyways, I remember reading that and I just felt like something opened up in my life. It was absolutely insane because I realized that I love God and everything has to work out for his good. Has to work out for good. Everything works out for good. And so I recognized that my circumstances didn't necessarily go away. At least I ended up realizing that. I didn't at that time, but I read that and I found the biggest release in my life. That no matter what, everything had to work out for good. And I got to this weird, crazy place where it was like, I don't even care what happens to me anymore. It was like really hard to stomach. It was really hard to face. But I got to this place where I really realized, I was like, okay, no matter what happens, God, I'm good. I have you. And I was reading also in the Bible. Again, I didn't really grow up in a Christian home. Family that they were Christians, but we did not grow up reading the Bible and this, that, or other. I was like a minimal Catholic at best growing up. We like went for 2 years, if even that, and it was not consecutive, I promise you. It was like probably like, I don't know, I've probably been less than 10 masses, but that's what my family was, and so that's what I showed up to. It was fine. I remember reading that, and I knew that nothing could separate me from God's love. I knew God loved me. I just didn't like my circumstances. I share all that because that was the very thing that I found hope in. That was the very moment that I realized, this sucks, this isn't good, but no matter what, I have God. And some of you might hear that and you say, so what? But I knew life is short. I know that at the end of the day, God could work a miracle in that. All my problems were his at that point. I also realized that if life is short, this is all over at some point. This is all over at some point. I really got to a spot where I felt very abandoned to my life. Abandoned in a good way. Like I just didn't care anymore. I just cared about Jesus. I knew Jesus had me. I knew Jesus was never going to leave me. And that to me was one of the greatest moments of my entire life because that was the release I needed to move forward. That was the release I needed to move forward. And so it was so funny. I remember I interviewed, but as I was getting clean, I was like living in this fog. The fog started to lift. I felt better. I remember God said, Ryan, I want you in ministry. And I fought that so hard. I fought that so freaking hard. And some of you were like, why did you fight that? And I'm like, I don't want to be a broke little pastor. I just did not. That sounded terrible. You got to remember, I was trying to hit a lick. I gave my life to, that's why I really surrendered my life to Jesus, but sanctification is a process. And so all that was taking place. It's a slow journey. And I was terrified of that. I called my friend and I actually said, dude, I feel like God's telling me he wants a ministry. And so I didn't know what to do with that, but tell him I was like crying. I was bawling my eyes out. And I remember he's telling me this youth pastor wanted me to come help out with a youth group. And I knew I couldn't like a year ago because what I was hiding in my life and what I was up to. And I went and did it, and I'll never forget. I was with the high schoolers as a leader, and I was sitting there soaking it up probably more than any of them. I bet I was. A lot of them grew up in a really good home. I grew up in a great home, but I didn't have that kind of I didn't have that kind of upbringing. And so it was the most transformative moment of my life. I always say it's like the tale of two cities. It was the best of times. Is this recording or not? It was like a tale of two cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. My screensaver came on. I don't know why that would come on while I'm doing this, but the best of times and the worst of times. It was the best because that's when I really met Jesus, I feel like. See, again, I physically encountered him earlier in my life, but I was hearing from him. This is when I surrendered my life and I knew nothing else was worth it. Long story short, short story long, it's all perspective. We're going on 20 minutes now, my goodness, but I wanted to share that. Some of this is going to be a ramble, and I'm hoping that it gets chopped up properly. I'm a firm believer in chopping it up into shorts, but that's like, I always go back to that moment when life seems hopeless, when life is hard. I remember God has me. And that can be so hard to explain, I think, to somebody and that is faith, because you got to know, you got to latch onto it, you got to walk in it, and you got to move forward. And some of you are like, how do I do that? How? I don't know. I think I was in a really desperate place in my life, and I was crying out for God, and God met that. God is near to the brokenhearted, and I really felt that. God's always near. But when it says God is near to the brokenhearted, that means something different when you're freaking brokenhearted and you know you have nothing. When you are at your end, that line right there hits different. God is near the brokenhearted. I'm so thankful for that. It means so much. It's unbelievable, really. And so I share that because I know there's people that are depressed right now. I know that there's people that are hopeless right now. And I don't know how you guys do it. And I'm showing you guys, sharing with you guys, there's a way. And nobody once preached that, but I never know who will hear this. I never know who this will impact. You might be a believer, you might not. I think that we all need to have an encounter with Jesus. I think we all have to get to a spot where we're really crying out for him. I don't think that's the only way you meet God. I don't think that's the only way you surrender. I'm just saying I was powerfully met in that moment. The whole business thing, by the way, it settled over. It was fine. My clients were found to be in the right, as they were. They didn't do anything wrong. We were done wrong, unfortunately. But it's crazy what God did. That was a trial. That was a trial in my life. Obviously, there's a lot of people involved. That was a trial. It was the hardest season, the darkest season of my life. Been through a lot in life, I think. There's people that have been through a lot more, but for me, I sometimes feel like I've been through so much. And that was a defining moment. God changed me. There's so much more to that story that I didn't share, but I think like when you're, number one, if you don't know Jesus, what do you find hope in? I don't understand what people find hope in because there's an end to it. That's the thing with Jesus, there's an eternity. There's always an eternity, but where you end up is a game changer. And I think a lot of people are looking for meaning and purpose, but they don't want to look to the person who created the world and created them, who has purpose. You're unhappy because you don't know your purpose. You're unhappy because you haven't spent time to find your purpose from him. See, he knows you better than you know you. He knows your desires better than you know your desires. And some of you are like, man, I tried figuring it out. I tried and I tried and I tried, and you're so frustrated. And I honestly don't know what to tell you. I think you just got to kind of keep moving forward. Maybe you need to be still. I'm not saying stop. Maybe you need to stop, but I'm not here to talk about that today. I think too many people stay and stop, and I think that's dangerous, and they're afraid to move forward, especially a lot of Christians. I think they're afraid to move forward. I think they just play stuck, and I think they find that noble and honorable, and I think that they're wasting their life, kind of. I think they're in a bubble. I think they're in a bubble, and they're wasting their life, and life is, like something I've learned is just crazy, is life will pass you by. You can easily let life pass you by. I don't think I really realized that or felt that until I was 25 or a little later. I'm 33 while I'm recording this. And life will pass you by, and that's scary. You got to make every day count. You got to make every moment count. You got to go hard in the paint. I believe that. And that means something. I don't mean try in an exhaustive way. Listen to God and respond and stay surrendered and follow the peace. But Stop staying idle. It's not helpful. I just think like sometimes you're just stuck in worship nights and prayer rooms, and you got to do something with your life beyond that and get out of your Christian bubble. I think that's dangerous. I think that's the most dangerous thing you're blind to, that you're in a bubble. Maybe somebody needed to hear that more than everything else. I don't know. But I really do share that because God spoke to me. He pulled me out of something, and I found hope in that. And I think that if you're feeling hopeless, you got to just cry out for hope. I think you got to go looking for it, and you'll find it in Him. Everything else, you'll be totally discontent and unhappy and unfulfilled. It's impossible to be fulfilled without God. You never will truly be. You'll be miserable, and you'll have some sort of pit. Maybe not miserable, but you really will be unfulfilled. You might be delusioned. So I think that's what I really share all this. Where do you find hope? How do you find hope? What are you latching on to? God wants to give you hope. God wants to give you hope. I found hope. I found it when I was at the bottom of everything. It wasn't fun. I don't recommend it. 10 out of 10, not to family or friends. Golly. So I share all that. And hopefully I said what I'm supposed to say. And if not, I'll record another episode. This is the longest one I've recorded yet. I'm a little short-winded. Mark Twain once said, I was going to write you a short letter, but I didn't have time. So here's a long one. One of the most profound things I've ever heard. Genuinely. Colleague told me that. But where are you finding hope? Do you even have hope? Do you feel miserable? Do you feel depressed? See, I think when you have hope, you get pulled out of depression. I'm not saying it's 100% great all the time, but what are you fixing your eyes on? It's hard to fix your eyes on something bigger than you if you're only stuck on you. And so I just hope we can create more dialogue. I'm trying to create community. I'm trying to create some things out of this. I want to see where it can go. I want to see where we can take this. It's fun. Life is fun. This cost me $0, I think. So I don't know. I'm genuinely curious where you're finding hope if you don't know Jesus. And I think some of you desperately want to know Jesus. I think some of you think you know Him and you don't. That's scary. But where is hope? God will work all things for the good of those that love Him, who are called according to His purpose. Do you love God? Do you want to love God? That's the thing. Maybe you want to and you don't know how, or you can't, or you feel stuck. Your mind is in the way and it sucks, and I'm sorry. But there's hope. There's a lot of hope. I want you to find hope. I don't want you to live something empty. See, I really do think we're coming into a day where the world is more polarized than ever. And I think the end times can feel like it's near, and I'm not saying they are, I'm not saying they're not, but things are very polarized, things are really split, things are really divided, and I think that I just think Jesus is the answer. He's been the answer for me, and that's how I found hope, and that's how I found purpose, and I think some people watching this will want those things, and I want you to know in Him you can find that, because that's what I did. So I spent maybe 27 minutes telling you that in a very roundabout way, but I think the story speaks, and I think there's power in our testimony. And so, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Where's your hope? How do you find it? Maybe we can have some honest dialogue in this. We'll find out, but you take care.